Hey young people, my name is Steph and I'm the Associate Minister of Telford Minster, and I'm so excited to be with you here today. So welcome back to another Minster Monday here at Telford Minster Youth YouTube channel. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe down below and stay up to date and connected with everything that's going on here. If you've never seen this before, it's all about this. Who's my favourite Bible character? So let's get on to it. So my favourite Bible character is a woman called Ruth, and you can find her story in the Old Testament of the Bible after the book of Judges. And the book of Judges is really all about fighting. It's not a very nice book. And then you've got this book about a woman called Ruth. Now Ruth, she is a Moabite and she's a refugee. She is, life hasn't always been really easy for her. So she marries a guy who is from Bethlehem, from Israel, but they're running away from there because there's no food. So they're in the land of the Moabites, and she's there with her husband, her sister-in-law, her husband, her mother-in-law and father-in-law, and what happens is all the men get killed. Really sad, really tragic. So she is left with her mother-in-law called Naomi and her sister-in-law Orpah. But what happens here is that Naomi, the mother-in-law, wants to go back to Israel. She thinks that the famine must be over. She wants to go back. And she says to her daughter-in-laws, recognising that it would be really hard as foreigners to go back to that land, to stay put. Orpah says, right then, I'm not coming with you, and stays and isn't loyal to Naomi. Whereas Ruth says, I'm not leaving you. She recognises that it would be so hard for Naomi to live as a widowed woman in this land. So she goes with her to Bethlehem, and there they have to find food. There wasn't really much, but it was at the end of the wheat season. So what does Ruth do? She goes out and she goes and gets food. Well, this food, it was called gleaning what she did, because she was only allowed the scraps on the floor. She wasn't allowed to go and chop down set amounts. She could only get what had been dropped from the floor. As she did this, she bumps into a man called Boaz. Now, Boaz is a name you can't forget. He's really significant. She chats to him though and tells him about Naomi and the situation that they're in. And Boaz looks at her and thinks, this is really good. He thinks that she's loyal and recognises goodness within her. But Ruth goes back to Naomi and tells her all about Boaz. And it just turns out that Boaz is related to Naomi. And because of that, that sounds a bit weird, but in those days, the man, if your husband dies, the closest male relative is then meant to marry the woman to carry on the heirs. Anyway, so Boaz was related, so he could marry Ruth. So that was the plan. But then they found out about another man. There was another man. And he was closer in relationship to Naomi. But when he found out that Ruth was in fact from another land, she was a foreigner, this other man said, nope, I don't want to marry her, I don't want her. But Boaz saw her and knew that she was a good woman, that she was loyal, she was honest, she was godly and had good character. So they got married. He said yes to her. Naomi and therefore had money, and they inherited money, and they had enough to live off, which was amazing because Boaz was a wealthy man. And they had a child together called Obed, and he is in the line of King David. So they're pretty important people, because that lineage, that line, goes down to Jesus. So she's a pretty important woman in the history of who Jesus is. So why is it that I really, really like her? Well, firstly, I love her because she is loyal. She could have run away. She didn't have to go and help Naomi. She stayed with her, stuck with her. Secondly, I like that she's initiative, that she uses her initiative to help Naomi. She goes out, she gets food, and she talks to people, doesn't she? And through that, she was able to find someone who would marry her to support Naomi. And lastly, she is a strong, independent woman. She could have just been really, really sad. Naomi actually renamed herself to Mara, which means bitter in Hebrew. But that didn't happen to Ruth. She didn't stay sad. She might have been sad for a bit, but she didn't let the past hold her back. She persevered so that she could live a better life and so that the people around her too could live a better life. That's Ruth.